I personally had the good fortune the last few years of having a very close relationship with Zayda. He's not my biological Zayda. He's not my biological Zayda, he's the Zayda of my wife. But as many of you know, Rabbi Feldman, his title was, of course, Rabbi Feldman, but also his title was Zayda. He says the Shpola Zayda. Is there somebody else who had such a title? I don't know. But the obvious reason why he had this title was because he was so beloved by everybody. There's an old saying that the greatest speech a rabbi can give is the way he lives his life. I think this is so true when it comes to Zayda Feldman, that he lived his life in a way that when he spoke to you, he didn't have to tell you something, he didn't have to preach at you. He wasn't a preacher. He would say one word or two words or one line to you, and you would be makabel in a way that you wouldn't be makabel from anybody else. I can tell you personally I remember just many things, but 4 things stand out, 4 things in my conversations with him that he told me that really stuck. I was very fortunate that my wife, being very close with her grandfather, would invite him over every Thursday night. He'd come and spend hours at my house. For the mashke, he'd always ask for a good l'chaim, maybe doubles. And we'd sit down, he'd sit there for hours and hours, and we'd talk to the kids, talk to myself, and talk to Leah. We had many, many meaningful conversations in the last few days of trying to put together my thoughts, trying to remember what we spoke about. Also some regrets. I regret very much how he offered me to, once in a conversation, I was telling him just, some things that are on your mind that he offered. He said, come over, we'll have a good talk. I never actually took him up on his offer, but 4 things do stand out, and just mention them briefly. First thing that he told me, this is about 2.5 years ago, he would always inquire, as Nachman said, he would always inquire what was happening at the Chabad house, what was happening in your personal lives, in your communal lives. And he asked me, so how does it work? You have your Shabbos minyanim, and then we only had a minyan on Monday and Thursday. And he said, a shul has to have a minyan every day. That's all he said. A shul has to have a minyan every day. But for some reason, the way he said it, or how he meant it, or perhaps something even greater than that, that's all he had to say. And the next week, I went to Chafila River. I started every day a minyan, even though practically it didn't really suit it. It didn't really make sense, but from then on till today, we have a minyan every single day. Again, somebody who doesn't have to preach, somebody with very few words, who just says it, perhaps more than just dibur. It's dibur at the source of dibur, which is from a very high level, perhaps. Zayda just said it, and it penetrated. Another thing he told me, it's like 1.5 years ago. He asked me what I was personally learning. So I told him all the things I was learning, and I did confess many of them are learning because I have to give many shiurim, so you have to be well prepared. I said, yes, I learned some Hasidus, and he asked me, which Gemara are you learning? And I had to confess that I actually, at that time, I wasn't learning any Gemara. I wasn't really learning any Gemara. And he said, a rabbi has to learn Gemara, has to be into learning. Because if you're not into learning, even though you have to be into learning Gemara. If you're not learning Gemara, you're not into learning. And it'll be hard to give. And I said, yeah, but I'm learning other things. It's like, you have to learn Gemara. And again, that's all he really said. But since then something happened, and we would talk. Since then, we would talk many times about the various Gemaras that I was trying to learn. And again, another thing that with very few words, just him saying it, just him uttering it, had a very big impact. Now, the next 2 things that he told me are just things of interest. One was, I had the fortune of spending a few hours with him on the Monday before he passed away. I think it was the last day that he was fully conscious, I think. And one of the things he told me was as follows. He told me and he told it to the nurse, and then he went on to explain it in depth. He said, families have to eat together. That eating is a very spiritual thing. And I said, yeah, I quoted the Baal Shem Tov, Nafsha B'Empty Sata, of the famous verse from Baal Shem Tov, that when you eat, it's a deeper calling, it's a calling from your neshama that wants to interact with the food, to elevate. He said, no. He said, not that. He said, you eat, it's spiritual, because families should eat together. When families eat together, it connects the family. So families should always try to eat together. I don't know where that came from, but if you think about it, there's actually a lot of depth behind that. I think there's much to say for that statement. And another thing that he told me, this I find very interesting. Again, he would always talk about, he would inquire about the various things we were doing at Chabad de Bobay. He said, I have a great idea for you. I said, okay, what? that you should invite all the non-believers, the atheists, to your shul. And you should ask them, give them the opportunity to talk and express themselves. And I said, okay, good. It sounds like an interesting idea. And obviously you want me to invite the believers and perhaps somebody who can show the atheists. He goes, no. Get the atheists to come. Let them talk. Let them just get it out of their system. Let them talk. I said, that's it. He goes, that's it. And I think what he was trying to say is that many times what people really need some love. People need to be listened to. Even if they're saying something that's not correct, they need to be listened to. Once they know that somebody's listening, perhaps many of the things that seem like obstacles, that seem like objections to Yiddishkeit aren't really such objections. Perhaps it's a deeper calling for some love and some empathy. So, and this is just one person. I'm just one person who heard just a few things from Zayden. There's who knows how many people who heard things, and there's no doubt that Mazar b'chayim afu b'chayim, that not only his biological children and grandchildren, which he had much nachas from, and in the hospital again, I turned to him on a few occasions when I was standing by his side, and I said, I explained to him that there was a roster system, that nobody wants to leave him alone, we all want to stand around him, and he shook his head very enthusiastically, how excited he was about that. Then I explained to him how much, I asked him, I said, do you feel the love? And he shook his head so enthusiastically how much love he felt, the connection he felt to his family. There's no doubt that Ma Zare B'chaim Afu B'chaim. But besides the biological Zare B'chaim, there's no doubt that his impact, his Zare, his spiritual children, the people who were impacted by him, whether it was in his earlier years, and I got to say, my grandfather came from Poland. He was one of the 9 people who were sent by the previous Rebbe from Poland. They left Poland in 1940. En route to Montreal, Canada, and the Frierdiker Rebbe sent Rabbi Feldman to greet them and to make them feel welcome. And they were very impressed with him. How this is an American Bacher who looked the way he did. So going back to those years, going back all the way to those years, thinking about the impact he had then over Polish Bachrim, all the way till 2008, till Tafshin Samach Test here in Australia, and the whole journey between these two, bracketed by these 2 periods, how many different people from every sector, from every age, and that's very multi-generational. Think of all the impact that he had. There's no doubt that he's in a very, as Nachum said, he's in a very, very high place. Another interesting thing is my wife Leah asked him towards the end. She asked him. She would have a very direct relationship with him. She would ask him very direct questions. He would answer very directly. And she asked him, "Are you afraid? Are you afraid of dying?" And he said, "Absolutely not." He said, "Absolutely not." And I think that's very connected to what Nachum said. He understood as the Frierdiker Rebbe told that interrogator that one God in 2 worlds. He obviously understood what the Mishnah said, that this world is a proizdar l'fnei hatraklin, haski and atzmacha b'proizdar. You should prepare yourself in this world so you can go into the next world. So may the neshama have the highest elevation, and may we all may we all gather strength from his memory, from who he was. May we all resolve in ourselves, in our own hearts, to become better people and try to emulate some of his incredible example, the way he lived his life.
Good.